They laughed at her, whispered behind her back. To most people, she was just another street vendor, insignificant, invisible. But behind that quiet gaze and worn-out tray of sweets, she carried something no one could see. A secret, a dream, a plan crafted in silence, fueled not by chance but by unshakable will. While others spent carelessly, she saved in silence. While some mocked, she observed. Every coin mattered, every step was intentional. She knew exactly where she was going, even if the world didn't believe in her. And then one day, everything changed. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. Her actions spoke louder than any voice ever could. What she revealed stunned everyone around her. It wasn't just a financial victory, it was a masterclass in quiet resilience, long-term vision, and the power of dreaming in silence. This is not just a story about money. It's about endurance, wisdom, and how the most underestimated person in the room can become the most unforgettable. Stay until the end, because the truth behind her story is something you'll never see coming. Before we dive into this incredible journey, take a moment to support this channel. If you believe in real stories that inspire change, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Why? Because every time you do, this message reaches more people. People who are searching for hope, for a way to take control of their finances, for a reason to believe they can change their lives too. Your simple action helps spread a story that can transform someone's future, and maybe that someone is you. Now let's go back to where it all began. She was born in a small house with a leaking roof and cracked walls, where dreams seemed too big for the space they were kept in. Her world was simple, too simple. A dirt road, hand-me-down clothes, and the sound of her parents' whispers late at night as they calculated how to stretch what little they had until the end of the month. But even in poverty, something stirred in her. She watched her mother make miracles out of nothing, turning old fabric into dresses, leftovers into full meals, tears into silent strength. Her father, tired and calloused from long days of hard labor, never stopped teaching her that dignity wasn't tied to wealth. It was in the way you carried yourself when no one was watching. She learned early that asking for things wasn't an option. Instead, she dreamed in silence. She would sit on the porch at night, eyes fixed on the stars, imagining a world where she didn't have to worry about tomorrow. A world where she could give her children the comfort she never had. No toys, no vacations, no luxuries, but her mind was rich in imagination. And that somehow kept her moving. School wasn't easy. She walked long distances, sometimes with holes in her shoes, but she paid attention, not just to the lessons on the board, but to life happening all around her. She saw how money, or the lack of it, shaped the way people were treated. How even the brightest dreams could be crushed under the weight of unpaid bills. And yet, through all of it, she never let go of one quiet belief. Someday I will break this cycle. Not with luck, not with miracles, but with discipline, patience, and strategy, even if she had to teach herself every single step. She didn't know how or when, but deep inside that little girl with empty pockets was a woman already building her future, one silent dream at a time. She didn't wake up one day and decide to sell sweets. It wasn't a childhood dream or a passion. It was necessity, pure and raw. Bills were piling up, her children needed food, and there were no doors opening, no opportunities knocking. So she created her own. With the little money she had, she bought sugar, flour, and condensed milk. In a kitchen too small for big dreams, she began to work. Her hands mixed ingredients with care, not for the love of baking, but for survival. Every sweet she made carried a silent prayer. Let this be enough to get us through the day. She started small, just a few candies wrapped in plastic, placed in an old container. Her first stop was the school gate. She stood under the sun, quiet but hopeful. People walked by, some smiled politely, others ignored her. But slowly, one by one, they began to buy. It wasn't easy. Each sale was a tiny victory. Each rejection, a lesson. She learned to read people's faces, to sense when someone was just being kind, and when they truly appreciated her effort. And even on the days when she sold nothing, she didn't go home defeated. She went home planning, thinking of what she could do better tomorrow. What started as a desperate attempt to earn a few coins soon became her daily mission, not just for money, but for control. Selling sweets gave her something she hadn't had in a long time, a sense of purpose, a way forward, a chance to provide, even in the smallest way. And though it may have seemed simple to the world, to her, it was everything. In the eyes of many, she was just a woman selling candy, but they didn't see what she saw, the beginning of something much greater, a foundation laid with sugar, sweat, and silent strength. Her days began before the sun. While most of the world still slept, she was already on her feet, tying her hair, preparing the ingredients and starting the stove. There were no weekends, no holidays, only the routine. Quiet, repetitive, but necessary. She moved through it like a ritual, not because she loved waking up early or standing for hours, but because she had no other choice. Every morning, she cooked with precision. The texture had to be just right, the wrapping tight and clean. She didn't want pity, she wanted respect. And for that, she treated her small business with the seriousness of an empire. After preparing the sweets, she packed them carefully and set out. Streets, bus stops, parks, store entrances, she walked miles each day under the scorching sun or sudden rain. Her shoes wore thin, her legs ached, but she didn't complain, not once. Every step, every sale, was a step closer to something only she could see. There were days when she came home with barely enough to buy rice and beans. Days when her children would ask, "Did you sell everything today, Mum?" And she would smile, even if the answer was no. Because she knew that hope, like love, needed to be protected. At night, while the world watched TV or rested, she was already thinking about the next day. Planning, preparing, praying. What kept her going wasn't just the need for money, it was the responsibility, the love she had for her children, the desire to give them more than what life had given her. She endured the exhaustion not with bitterness but with quiet strength. She didn't wait for motivation, she moved with discipline, and every drop of sweat, every blister, every sigh was a part of the story she was writing. A story of persistence that few noticed, but one that would soon echo louder than anyone expected. Not everyone saw her strength. Many only saw what they wanted to see. A woman selling candy on the street. And for some, that was enough reason to laugh, to whisper, to judge. She heard the comments. Doesn't she have anything better to do? Still at it? That won't take her anywhere. Poor thing, probably uneducated. They didn't know her story. They didn't know that every sweet in her tray was a brick in the foundation of something she was quietly building. But people judge what they don't understand, and the street, cruel and honest, rarely forgives those who dare to dream in silence. Some laughed as they passed by. Others looked at her with pity, as if she had failed at life. And then there were those who tried to humiliate her openly, asking for discounts with sarcastic smiles, pretending to admire her just to mock her once they turned away. But she never reacted. She didn't throw words back. She didn't defend herself. She had no time for pride, only purpose. What they saw as shame, she saw as survival. What they called begging, she called honest work. And while they wasted their breath judging her, she was calculating, mentally counting her coins, planning her next move, reminding herself why she started. She taught herself to walk with her head high, even when her heart was bruised, because every time someone tried to tear her down, she added one more reason to keep going. Their cruelty became her fuel, their mockery, a reminder that one day they'd see the woman behind the tray and they'd regret ever laughing. They didn't know it yet, but she wasn't just selling sweets. She was preparing for something they couldn't imagine, and when the time came, they would be the ones speechless. Every cent she earned was sacred, not because she loved money, but because she knew how hard it was to get. She never spent without thinking twice. In a world that tempted her to buy things she didn't need, she held herself back with quiet discipline. She had no fancy notebooks or apps, just an old, worn-out envelope where she kept her earnings. Every morning before setting out to sell, she counted the money from the day before. Not aloud, never boasting, always in silence. That was her ritual, her way of staying connected to her goal. Bills, food, small expenses, everything was carefully planned. If something was missing, she found a way to make it work. If there was extra, she hid it away. Not because she distrusted anyone, but because she trusted her dreams more than words. Family and friends rarely knew the real numbers. They saw her struggle and assumed she had nothing left. But behind that humble smile was a woman quietly building a future. She avoided waste and frivolous expenses, not out of deprivation, but out of respect for what she was working to achieve. Sometimes she would say no to herself just so her children could have a little more. Sometimes she sacrificed small comforts, a new pair of shoes, a visit to the doctor, even a meal, because she believed in the power of saving. No one saw the strength it took to say, "Not today," when everything inside her screamed, "I deserve this." But she said it anyway. Every cent saved was a seed planted, and she nurtured those seeds with patience, knowing one day they would bloom into something beautiful. This wasn't just money management. It was a silent rebellion against the life she was born into, a way of saying, "I control my future." And that control was the key to her transformation. Hidden away in a dusty corner of her small home was an old, tattered notebook. Its cover faded, pages yellowed and worn from years of handling. No one knew much about it, except that it was her most precious secret. Inside those pages were not just numbers or lists. They were her silent confessions, her careful plans, and her small victories. Every coin saved, every expense tracked, every goal written down with meticulous care. The notebook was her map, guiding her through a world where she often felt lost. She wrote in it late at night, after everyone else had gone to sleep. The house was quiet, and her hand moved steadily, almost ritualistically. She recorded the smallest details: how many sweets she sold, the price she charged, the money she tucked away. But more than that, she wrote her dreams, sometimes in words, sometimes in sketches: a house with a white fence, children smiling, a life free from worry. Those pages held her determination when words failed her. They reminded her of why she woke up before dawn and stood under the sun, selling candy instead of resting. It was a private conversation between her and her future self, a promise written in ink and hope. She protected that notebook fiercely. No one was allowed to see it, not even her closest family. It was her sanctuary, a place where doubt could not enter and fear was silenced. That little book, forgotten by others, was the engine of her success, the blueprint of a dream no one believed in but her. And when the time came to reveal her story, those pages would speak louder than words ever could. Even when a few extra coins came her way, she never allowed herself to be swayed by temptation. It wasn't out of bitterness or deprivation. It was a choice, a silent promise to herself and her dreams. She watched others around her spend on things that glittered but held no real value. New clothes, fancy gadgets, fleeting pleasures. And she understood something deep inside. Those things wouldn't build a future. They were distractions, illusions meant to trap the mind in momentary happiness. So she refused, not with anger or regret, but with unwavering clarity. A cup of coffee she wanted but didn't buy. A new dress she admired but left on the rack. Even small treats for herself became rare luxuries. She understood that every coin spent on frivolity was a coin lost from her dream. And she wasn't willing to lose that. Her friends sometimes teased her, calling her too careful or old-fashioned. Family members suggested she deserved some joy after all the hardship, but she smiled quietly and stayed true. Because joy, for her, was different. It was waking up one day knowing she had made it, knowing she had the power to change her life and the lives of those she loved. She learned that true happiness comes not from what you spend, but from what you build, and in that wisdom, she found peace. While others chased fleeting moments, she chased a lifetime. And that made all the difference. She had no one to teach her about money. No classes, no books handed down, no mentors waiting to guide her. All she had was a fierce determination to change her life and a thirst to learn. At first she stumbled, confused by numbers, unsure about interest, savings or investment, but she refused to be defeated. She sought knowledge wherever she could find it. She listened carefully to conversations at the market, picking up words like budget, expenses, and saving. She borrowed books from the library, even if they were written in language unfamiliar to her. Sometimes she stayed up late watching educational programs on the small TV she had, pausing and rewinding to understand. She made mistakes, many of them, but each one became a lesson. Slowly, she learned to balance income and expenses, to prioritize needs over wants, to understand the power of compound interest. She even started experimenting with small savings plans, tracking her progress in that same old notebook. It was not a perfect education, but it was real, and it was hers. Through sheer will and perseverance, she transformed from a woman who barely made ends meet into someone who controlled her finances with quiet confidence. Her education wasn't handed to her. She earned it, piece by piece, step by step. And that made all the difference. No one in her family knew the full extent of her secret. Not her husband, not her children, not even her closest relatives. She kept her savings hidden, locked away like a precious treasure, guarded by silence and discretion. It wasn't because she wanted to keep secrets out of distrust. It was because she understood the power of surprise, the power of showing results when everyone least expects it. She hid money in places no one thought to look. Under floorboards, inside old jars, in secret compartments of worn-out furniture. Each coin was a victory, each note a step closer to a dream she wouldn't share until the time was right. Sometimes, when the family struggled or argued over finances, she listened quietly, feeling the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. But she never revealed her secret. Not yet. She understood that hope can be fragile, and sometimes it must be protected from doubt. She watched as others gave up or spent recklessly, and she smiled quietly, knowing that her secret savings were growing, slowly but surely, like a seed beneath the soil. When the time came, her hidden treasure would become the foundation of a new life. A life where she no longer had to explain, justify, or beg. A life built on patience, sacrifice, and faith. Her silence was not weakness. It was strength. Her secret was not shame. It was power. There was a moment, a long, quiet moment, when everyone around her believed she had nothing. No savings, no prospects, no hope. Just the tired woman selling sweets on the street corner, struggling to make ends meet. Her worn shoes, faded clothes, and humble demeanor told a story of hardship. Neighbors whispered behind her back. Family members doubted her ability to change her fate. Even friends pitied her, thinking she was trapped in an endless cycle of poverty. She heard the whispers, felt the judgment, but she never let it break her spirit. Because beneath that quiet exterior, something greater was growing, something invisible but unstoppable. She didn't argue, didn't defend herself. She simply kept going, kept saving, kept dreaming, She understood that sometimes the greatest strength lies in patience, in waiting for the right moment to reveal the truth. And when that moment finally arrived, it stunned everyone. They looked back and realized that the woman they thought was powerless had quietly built a foundation no one saw. Because sometimes the loudest victories come from the quietest battles. No one expected it. Not her family, not her neighbors, not the people who had watched her struggle for years. One day, she walked into a real estate office with confidence in her step and a quiet smile on her face. In her hands, she carried something that changed everything, a down payment for a property. The agents looked at her, surprised by the humble woman who seemed so ordinary, so unassuming. But the numbers didn't lie. The money was there, solid, real, and enough to secure a future. She wasn't asking for help or charity. She wasn't begging for a handout. She was claiming what she had earned, what she had fought for in silence. That moment was more than a financial transaction. It was a statement, a declaration that she was no longer invisible, that she was no longer the struggling vendor on the street corner. The surprise in their eyes was matched only by the shock in her family's faces when they found out. They had underestimated her. They had assumed she had nothing. But she proved them wrong. Not with words, but with action. She showed them that dreams nurtured in silence, fueled by discipline and faith, can move mountains. That day, she didn't just make a payment, she rewrote her story. When her family finally discovered the truth, the reaction was overwhelming. Shock first, then disbelief, and slowly, a deep, growing respect. They had watched her for years, thinking they knew everything. They saw the tired hands, the worn clothes, the long days under the sun. Yet beneath all that, she had built a secret fortress of hope and determination. Some family members felt guilty for doubting her. Others were amazed at her resilience and discipline. And some, who once mocked or pitied her, now looked at her with new eyes, a mix of admiration and awe. It wasn't just the money they discovered, it was the story behind it. The sacrifices she made quietly, the countless times she chose dreams over momentary pleasures, the strength it took to hide her hope, not out of shame, but out of strategy. Her secret savings were more than currency. They were proof of her unwavering faith in a better future. And that realization changed everything. Family dinners grew warmer, conversations deeper, respect replaced judgment, support replaced doubt. She had not only transformed her own life, she had transformed how her family saw her and how they saw what was possible. In that moment, she became a symbol, not just of financial success, but of silent strength and unshakable hope. Choosing the right property was not a spur-of-the-moment decision. It was a dream, nurtured with patience, careful planning, and a clear vision. She knew what she wanted, not just a house, but a home. A place where her family could feel safe, where her children could grow without fear, where memories could be built. She walked through countless neighborhoods, asked questions, and measured every possibility. It wasn't about luxury or extravagance, it was about value and promise. She chose a modest home in a quiet area, close to schools and work, a place that offered stability and hope. Every detail mattered, the foundation, the neighborhood, the future. Paying for it wasn't easy. She used every saved coin from years of discipline, every secret note in her old notebook, every lesson learned about budgeting and financial control. She made the down payment confidently, negotiated with care, and signed the papers with a smile that carried years of sacrifice. That moment wasn't just a transaction, it was a triumph, a testament to what determination and faith can achieve. The house was more than walls and a roof. It was proof that dreams, no matter how humble their beginnings, can become reality. And in that house, she found not just shelter, but dignity. The moment she stepped into her new home, something inside her shifted forever. Her self-esteem, once fragile and shadowed by years of struggle, blossomed into quiet confidence. She saw herself not as the woman who begged for help, but as a creator of her own destiny. Her family, too, saw her differently. The respect they had withheld, the doubt they had voiced, melted away. They recognized her strength, her sacrifice, and the wisdom that had guided every choice. No longer was she just the woman who sold sweets on the street. She had become a pillar, a source of inspiration, a symbol of resilience. Her children looked up to her with pride, learning that dignity comes from perseverance. Her husband found in her a partner whose vision extended beyond the present, whose faith could move mountains. The house was a physical reminder of what she had accomplished, but the real victory was intangible. It was the transformation of how she saw herself and how others saw her. That respect wasn't given lightly. It was earned through years of quiet battles, endless determination, and unwavering hope. Her journey proved that true worth is not measured by what others think, but by the strength to keep going when no one is watching. The most precious gift she left behind wasn't the house, the money, or even the comfort she had finally secured. It was a silent lesson, woven through her actions, her sacrifices, and her quiet determination. To her children and grandchildren, she taught without words the power of patience. She showed them that success is not always loud or flashy. It can grow slowly in silence, like a seed hidden beneath the earth. She taught them discipline, the kind that doesn't rely on motivation or momentary feelings, but on steady, consistent effort. That saving isn't about how much you earn, but how much you hold on to with wisdom and care. Her worn notebooks, filled with secret calculations and careful plans, became symbols of a legacy much deeper than money, one of resilience, faith, and vision. Her story reminded them that dreams are worth fighting for, even when no one else believes. That respect and dignity come from integrity and strength, not from wealth or status. She showed that true wealth lies in the courage to dream quietly, the determination to act wisely, and the faith to keep going no matter the obstacles. And in every child and grandchild's heart, her silent lessons live on, a quiet beacon guiding them toward a future shaped by hope and perseverance. After she secured her home, her life changed, not because the struggles ended, but because her perspective did. No longer did she see herself as a victim of circumstance. She had stepped into a new chapter, a chapter defined by hope, dignity, and possibility. The daily grind of selling sweets remained, but it was no longer a burden. It was a means to nurture her dreams and support her family with pride. Her confidence grew, and with it, her voice. She began to speak up more, to share her story quietly but powerfully, inspiring those around her. Her relationships deepened. Family members who once doubted her now sought her advice. Friends listened closely when she spoke of discipline and vision. She found joy in simple things, knowing that her efforts had paved the way for a better future. She could finally plan long-term, saving for her children's education, helping with emergencies, and even dreaming of small luxuries once out of reach. Most importantly, she embraced a renewed sense of purpose. Her story became more than personal triumph. It was a beacon for others who struggled silently. She realized that her journey wasn't just about what she had gained. It was about what she could give back. Her story didn't end with her own success. It sparked a ripple effect that reached far beyond her family. Women in her community, many facing struggles similar to hers, began to see her as a beacon of hope. She shared her journey openly, not with boastfulness, but with humility and honesty. She spoke at local gatherings, offering advice on saving money, managing small businesses, and staying disciplined. She listened to others' stories, offering encouragement and practical tips born from real experience. Her example showed these women that it was possible to break the cycle of poverty, even with limited resources. She taught them the value of patience, faith, and steady effort, reminding them that change often comes slowly but surely. Some women, inspired by her, started their own small ventures, saving diligently and dreaming boldly. Through her story, she built a community of support and empowerment, a sisterhood bound by resilience and hope. Her legacy became not just a home or savings, but a movement of women lifting each other up. One of the most powerful parts of her story is the practical wisdom she gained along the way. Lessons anyone can apply, no matter how small their income. First, she learned the importance of tracking every cent. No matter how little she earned, she noted every expense and every coin saved in her old worn notebook. This simple habit gave her control and clarity. Second, she embraced discipline. She refused to spend on unnecessary things, even when she had a little extra. Small sacrifices repeated day after day built her savings steadily. Third, she prioritized needs over wants. She focused on essentials, food, shelter, schooling for her kids, and left luxuries for another day. Fourth, she set clear goals. Whether it was saving for a down payment or a school fee, having a goal kept her motivated and focused. Fifth, she avoided debt. She understood that borrowing could trap her in cycles of financial stress, so she lived within her means. Lastly, she believed in the power of patience. Wealth doesn't come overnight, but with time, even small amounts grow. Her story shows that saving money is not about how much you make, it's about how wisely you manage what you have. With faith, discipline, and a clear plan, anyone can start building a better future today. Discipline and long-term vision are the quiet engines behind every great success story. She understood early on that discipline wasn't about occasional effort. It was about consistency, day in and day out. It meant choosing to save a little today, even when temptation whispered to spend. It meant waking up early, working hard, and sometimes saying no to immediate pleasures for the sake of a bigger dream. But discipline alone isn't enough without vision, the ability to see beyond the present moment. She kept her eyes fixed on a future she could barely imagine in her hardest days, a future with stability, respect, and dignity. That vision gave her strength to persevere through fatigue, judgment, and doubt. It was the vision that transformed her sacrifices into stepping stones rather than burdens. She teaches us that discipline, combined with a clear long-term goal, creates a powerful force, one that can move mountains and change lives. Her story reminds us, success is not a sprint. It's a marathon fueled by patience, faith, and an unshakable vision for tomorrow. Never underestimate those who dream in silence. Her story proves that the quietest dreams often carry the greatest strength. Behind every humble smile, every small step, lies a fierce determination that few can see, but many will one day feel. Those who dream in silence aren't weak, they are warriors, patiently building their future brick by brick. They teach us that true power comes from resilience, faith, and unwavering hope. So if you find yourself struggling, unnoticed, and underestimated, remember her journey. Keep dreaming, keep working, keep believing. Your silent efforts are shaping a story of triumph that will inspire generations. And one day, just like her, you will stand tall, not because the world noticed, but because you never gave up. Your time is coming. The world will see your strength. Never underestimate the power of a dream held quietly in the heart. Amen. Before you go, I want to invite you to take a simple but powerful step. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It really helps us reach more people who, like you, want to change their financial future. Don't forget to leave a like if this story inspired you. It encourages us to keep sharing more stories and lessons that can transform lives. Also, hit the notification bell so you never miss new videos packed with practical tips and real-life inspiration. And please share this video with someone you know who is also searching for financial freedom or wants to learn more about managing money wisely. Lastly, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below telling us what lesson touched you the most, or share your own story. Together, we're building a community of hope, discipline, and success. Thanks for being part of it.